Imagine a world where truth seems to vanish, where deceit and flattery rule the day. Sounds familiar, right? Ever felt like you're navigating a sea of false promises and empty words? Well, you're not alone. This scenario isn't just a modern-day struggle, it's actually something that dates back to ancient times. Curious about what ancient wisdom has to say about it? Think about this: how do we find refuge when honesty is in short supply? Stay tuned, because we're diving deep into a powerful message that speaks directly to our hearts and minds. Ready to uncover some timeless truths? Let's get into it. Traditionally, Psalm 12 is attributed to King David, a significant figure in biblical history who is credited with penning many of the Psalms. David's life was marked by a series of tumultuous events, including his rise from shepherd boy to king, his battles against various enemies, and internal conflicts within his kingdom. Understanding David as the author gives us insight into the emotional and spiritual depths from which he wrote. David's psalms often reflect his personal experiences, struggles, and his deep relationship with God. Historically, David's reign was a period of significant political and social upheaval. He faced betrayal, rebellion, and moral challenges, which could have influenced the themes of his writings. Psalm 12, in particular, reflects a deep concern for the moral state of society, which could be tied to the corruption and deceit he witnessed during his time. David's plea for divine intervention and justice is a recurring theme in his psalms, highlighting his reliance on God's righteousness amidst human failings. The attribution to David also adds a layer of authenticity and authority to the psalm. As a revered king and a man after God's own heart, David's words carry weight within the Judeo-Christian tradition. His ability to articulate the plight of the righteous in the face of widespread corruption and deceit resonates with readers across generations, making Psalm 12 a timeless piece of spiritual literature. Before we dive into today's content, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you enjoy our videos and want to see more exciting content, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. It's the best way to support us and stay updated on all the new meditations and videos we share. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thank you for being part of our community, and now, enjoy the video. The central theme of Psalm 12 is a lament over the corruption and falsehood prevalent in society. The psalmist expresses deep sorrow and frustration at the moral decay he observes, particularly the dishonesty and deceit that seem to dominate human interactions. This theme is universal and timeless, as every generation has grappled with issues of integrity and truthfulness in the face of societal corruption. The lament is not just a personal cry but a communal one, reflecting the collective experience of those who strive to live righteously in a world that often rewards deceit and manipulation. The psalmist's words capture the disillusionment and despair that can arise when truth and justice appear to be overshadowed by lies and injustice. This central theme resonates deeply with readers, as it touches on the fundamental human desire for a just and truthful society. Moreover, the theme underscores the importance of divine intervention in addressing human corruption. The psalmist's lament is coupled with a plea for God's help, recognizing that ultimate justice and truth come from the divine. This dual focus on human failure and divine righteousness reinforces the core message of the psalm: while society may falter, God's truth and justice remain steadfast. In Psalm 12, the psalmist's cry for divine help is a poignant expression of desperation and faith. Faced with overwhelming corruption and falsehood, the psalmist turns to God as the ultimate source of justice and salvation. This cry for help reflects a deep-seated belief in God's ability to intervene and rectify the injustices that plague society. The psalmist's plea is not just for personal deliverance but for the protection of all who are oppressed by the deceitful and corrupt. This communal aspect of the cry highlights the interconnectedness of human suffering and the need for collective divine intervention. The psalmist's words serve as a reminder that in times of moral and social crisis, turning to God for help is both a personal and communal act of faith. The intensity of the psalmist's cry also underscores the urgency of the situation. The use of vivid and emotive language conveys a sense of immediate need for divine action. This urgency is a powerful reminder of the psalmist's reliance on God's timely intervention. In a world where human efforts often fall short, the psalmist's cry for divine help stands as a testament to the enduring hope and trust in God's ability to bring about justice and truth. One of the striking concerns in Psalm 12 is the corruption of human words. The psalmist laments the prevalence of lies, flattery, and deceit, painting a grim picture of a society where words are used not to convey truth but to manipulate and harm. This focus on the corruption of speech highlights the destructive power of dishonest communication and its impact on social trust and integrity. The psalmist's critique extends beyond mere dishonesty to include the insidious nature of flattering speech. Flattery, while seemingly benign, is portrayed as a tool of manipulation that erodes genuine relationships and trust. The psalmist's condemnation of such speech reflects a deep understanding of the moral and social consequences of using words deceitfully. In a society where communication is foundational, the corruption of words leads to a breakdown of trust and justice. The emphasis on the corruption of human words also serves to contrast with the purity of God's words, which the psalmist later highlights. While human words are shown to be fallible and often harmful, God's words are depicted as pure and trustworthy. This contrast reinforces the psalmist's plea for divine intervention, as only God's words can bring about true justice and righteousness in a world tainted by deceit. Psalm 12 vividly describes the actions of the wicked, painting a stark picture of a society where the malicious prosper. The wicked are characterized by their oppressive behavior towards the needy and their arrogant attitude. This portrayal serves to highlight the moral decay that the psalmist observes, where those without scruples exploit the vulnerable for their gain. The oppression of the poor and needy by the wicked is a recurring theme in biblical literature, and Psalm 12 is no exception. The psalmist's description of these actions underscores the social injustices prevalent in his time. The wicked's exploitation of the vulnerable not only reflects their moral corruption but also the systemic issues within society that allow such behavior to thrive. This portrayal serves as a powerful indictment of the societal structures that fail to protect the innocent and uphold justice. Arrogance is another defining characteristic of the wicked in Psalm 12. Their haughty demeanor and sense of invulnerability are depicted as both a cause and a consequence of their corrupt actions. The psalmist's focus on their arrogance serves to highlight the moral blindness that accompanies their behavior. In their eyes, they are untouchable, further emphasizing the need for divine intervention to humble and bring justice to those who act with impunity. Amidst the lament and condemnation, Psalm 12 offers a glimmer of hope through the promise of divine protection. God's assurance to safeguard the poor and needy from the hands of the wicked is a central theme that provides comfort and hope to the psalmist and the community. This promise underscores the belief in a just and compassionate God who is attentive to the cries of the oppressed. The promise of divine protection is a recurring motif in the Psalms, reflecting the deep-seated belief in God's active involvement in human affairs. For the psalmist, this assurance serves as a counterbalance to the pervasive corruption and deceit around him. It reinforces the idea that no matter how dire the situation may seem, God's protective presence remains a constant source of hope and strength. This divine promise also carries a broader theological significance. It speaks to the enduring nature of God's covenant with His people, a covenant that includes the protection and care of the marginalized and vulnerable. In a world where human justice often falls short, the promise of divine protection affirms the ultimate sovereignty of God and His unwavering commitment to righteousness and justice. In stark contrast to the corrupted and deceitful words of humans, Psalm 12 highlights the purity and reliability of God's words. The psalmist likens God's words to silver refined in a furnace, purified 7 times. This vivid metaphor underscores the absolute purity and trustworthiness of divine speech. Unlike human words, which can be tainted by deceit and manipulation, God's words are depicted as flawless and unblemished. The purity of God's words serves as a foundation for the psalmist's faith and hope. In a world marred by falsehood and corruption, the psalmist finds solace in the unwavering truth of God's promises. This purity not only sets a standard for human speech but also provides a reliable source of guidance and assurance. The psalmist's emphasis on the purity of God's words underscores the belief that divine communication is inherently righteous and just, offering a stark contrast to the fallibility of human discourse. Moreover, the refined nature of God's words implies a process of purification, suggesting that divine truth has been tested and proven to be true and reliable. This notion reinforces the idea that God's words stand the test of time and scrutiny, offering a solid foundation for faith and trust. In the face of pervasive deceit and corruption, the purity of God's words provides a beacon of hope and a standard of truth that the faithful can depend on. The theme of divine justice is intricately woven throughout Psalm 12. The psalmist's lament over the moral decay and corruption in society is coupled with a firm belief in the eventual triumph of divine justice. This belief serves as a source of hope and consolation for the righteous, who may feel overwhelmed by the prevalence of wickedness and deceit. The psalmist's confidence in divine justice is rooted in the character of God as a righteous and just ruler. This belief is a recurring theme in the Psalms, where God's justice is often depicted as a force that ultimately prevails over human corruption. The psalmist's appeal to God for intervention reflects a deep trust in divine justice as the ultimate remedy for the injustices and falsehoods that plague society. The assurance of divine justice also carries an eschatological dimension, pointing to a future time when God's righteousness will be fully realized. This forward-looking aspect of divine justice offers a sense of hope and anticipation for the faithful. It reinforces the belief that despite the current state of moral decay, God's justice will ultimately prevail, bringing about a restoration of truth and righteousness. The messages and themes of Psalm 12 hold significant relevance in the contemporary context. Issues of social injustice, corruption, and the manipulation of truth are as prevalent today as they were in the psalmist's time. The lament over the moral decay in society and the plea for divine intervention resonate deeply with modern readers, highlighting the timeless nature of the Psalm's themes. In today's world, where misinformation and deceit are rampant, the psalmist's concern with the corruption of human words is particularly pertinent. The manipulation of truth for personal or political gain is a pressing issue, and the Psalm's emphasis on the purity of God's words offers a powerful counternarrative. It serves as a reminder of the importance of integrity and honesty in communication, and the need to seek and uphold truth in the face of falsehood. The promise of divine protection and the assurance of divine justice also provide a source of hope and encouragement for those grappling with social injustices. In the fight against systemic corruption and oppression, the Psalm's message of God's unwavering commitment to justice serves as a beacon of hope. It reinforces the belief that despite the challenges and injustices faced, divine justice will ultimately prevail, offering comfort and strength to those who strive for righteousness. Psalm 12 is characterized by its poetic and literary structure, which enhances the delivery of its themes and messages. The psalm is structured as a lament, beginning with a cry for help and culminating in a declaration of God's promise and justice. This structure reflects a movement from despair to hope, mirroring the psalmist's journey from lament to trust in divine intervention. The use of parallelism is a notable feature of the psalm's literary structure. Parallelism, a common literary device in Hebrew poetry, involves the repetition of similar or contrasting ideas in successive lines. This device serves to reinforce the psalm's themes and create a rhythmic flow that enhances its emotive impact. For instance, the parallelism in the descriptions of the wicked and the purity of God's words highlights the stark contrast between human deceit and divine truth. The psalm also employs vivid imagery and metaphors to convey its messages. The comparison of God's words to refined silver is a powerful metaphor that underscores their purity and reliability. Similarly, the depiction of the wicked's actions and attitudes is rich in imagery, painting a vivid picture of their moral corruption and arrogance. These literary elements not only enhance the psalm's aesthetic quality but also deepen its thematic resonance. Psalm 12 has been used in various liturgical and devotional contexts within both Judaism and Christianity. Its themes of social justice, divine protection, and the purity of God's words make it particularly relevant for communal worship and personal devotion. In Jewish tradition, the Psalms, including Psalm 12, are an integral part of daily and Sabbath prayers. They are recited in various liturgical settings, including synagogue services and personal prayer. The Psalms' lament over societal corruption and plea for divine intervention resonate deeply with the communal and individual experiences of seeking justice and righteousness. In Christian tradition, Psalm 12 is also used in various liturgical contexts, including the Liturgy of the Hours and other prayer services. Its themes of divine justice and protection align with the Christian emphasis on God's care for the oppressed and the ultimate triumph of truth and righteousness. The Psalm's relevance to contemporary issues of social injustice and moral decay makes it a powerful text for reflection and prayer, offering both a critique of the present and a hope for divine intervention. The theological interpretation of Psalm 12 has evolved over time, reflecting different perspectives and emphases within the Judeo-Christian tradition. Throughout history, theologians and biblical scholars have explored the Psalm's themes of divine justice, the corruption of human words, and the purity of God's promises, offering insights into its theological significance. In Jewish exegesis, Psalm 12 is often seen as a reflection of the communal experience of suffering and the hope for divine intervention. The Psalm's emphasis on the purity of God's words is interpreted as a reaffirmation of the Torah's enduring truth and reliability. The promise of divine protection is viewed in light of God's covenantal relationship with Israel, emphasizing his commitment to justice and care for the oppressed. In Christian interpretation, Psalm 12 is often read through the lens of Christ's teachings and the New Testament's emphasis on truth and justice. The Psalms lament over societal corruption and plea for divine help resonate with the Christian call to uphold truth and righteousness in a fallen world. The promise of divine protection and the assurance of God's justice are seen as fulfilled in Christ, who embodies divine truth and brings about ultimate justice. The theological significance of Psalm 12 also extends to its eschatological dimension. Both Jewish and Christian traditions see the Psalm's anticipation of divine justice as pointing to a future time when God's righteousness will be fully realized. This eschatological hope provides a framework for understanding the Psalm's relevance to contemporary struggles for justice and truth, offering a vision of a future where divine justice prevails over human corruption. In summary, Psalm 12 is a rich and multifaceted text that addresses themes of social justice, the corruption of human words, and the purity of divine promises. Its lament over societal corruption and plea for divine intervention resonate deeply with contemporary readers, offering both a critique of the present and a hope for divine justice. The Psalm's literary structure, theological interpretation, and liturgical use enhance its significance within the Judeo-Christian tradition, making it a timeless and powerful expression of faith and longing for righteousness. As we wrap up our exploration of Psalm 12, let's take a moment to ponder its timeless relevance. David's poignant words remind us of a world where deceit and malice seem to flourish, yet he also assures us of God's unwavering commitment to justice and truth. Imagine for a second how different our world could be if we all embraced the integrity and purity that David speaks of. How might your daily interactions change if you held on to God's promises a little tighter? Think about this. What if each word you spoke carried the power and sincerity that God desires? How would that transform your relationships, your community, your life? And as you go about your day, consider where you can be a beacon of light in the darkness that David describes. Are there areas in your life where you feel overwhelmed by falsehood and negativity? How can you invite God into those spaces to bring His truth and peace? I challenge you to take the essence of Psalm 12 and apply it today. Speak truth, live justly, and trust in God's protection. What steps will you take to ensure that your words and actions reflect the purity that God cherishes? Let's continue this conversation in the comments below. Share your thoughts on how Psalm 12 resonates with you personally. Have you experienced moments where God's promises have shielded you from harm? Your stories could be the inspiration someone else needs. And remember, if this message touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that like button, share this video with someone who needs encouragement, and make sure you're subscribed to Divine Refuge for more uplifting and inspiring content. Until next time, stay blessed, stay inspired, and keep seeking refuge in the divine.